Mm-hmm. On
Right.
Facebook.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It is a wonderful morning here. We finally got a chance of autumn that came in tonight, last night. So it has cooled off here in Texas, but the election cycle has not cooled off at all. So it's getting hotter and hotter. And on our show right now, we have my man, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Bruce Johnson. He's back with us again. And how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you having me. Thank you. It is, it's a very chilly day, but it's still some really nice weather. I'm just thankful for this opportunity and glad to have ready to have a good conversation.
Oh yeah, blessing on that one right there. I appreciate you coming on board again. Let me see here. Let me go where we were at. Okay, so the last time we talked, you was enlightening us on disability and all that, and you opened my eyes up on some of the things that's going on or not going on, I should say. So, what are your top legislative priorities for Disability Caucus in the coming year?
I would say the biggest things is just connecting with our allies um, in the House and in the Capitol building, just and advocating just for in the event that the school voucher, as some of my colleagues say, a school voucher scam, and in that case it passes. Advocating for provisions for special education funding because they already are underfunded, and I think that's the biggest thing. And then accessible and affordable housing is a huge one. It's important for me, but also for the um, disability community, especially in the Texas Democratic Party. And with the disability homes and rehabilitation homes that have been affected by Medicaid funding and so forth, we really have to protect um, a compromised community. And just women's reproductive rights from the disability standpoint, and just advocating from that. And those are the four main ones that we're really just advocating and pushing for in this upcoming legislative session.
Okay. How do you see the caucus influencing disability rights at the national or local level?
I would say just formulate, a network of legislators and advocates, because everyone has a different story. Everyone has a different perspective. And I think that's the main one when it comes to um, how we can influence it is just getting people in the right rooms who, have the messaging that can push the caucus forward. And I think we can push we can control the narrative a lot of times. I think a lot of times um, when you have a lobbyist or advocates, the legislators control the narrative. And I think when you have people who are dealing with it firsthand, I think it's best to um, have us in the room, speaking on certain issues. And I think we can provide that. We can provide that for sure.
Are there any recent or upcoming bills that you believe will have a significant impact on the disability community?
I would say the biggest one probably would be HB 3928. Basically, it's the update dyslexia handbook. Um, it's that's really the only one that will probably touch a disability. And I would say obviously, like I said, we're pushing for more vocal allies. I'm sure there's plenty of disability allies in the state house. Our governor is disabled, so I would think we would have more allies in the state house. But it's I would say just have more vocal allies, and hopefully we get more bills into committees, and hopefully a bill gets on the floor that will tackle the disability community specifically. I think a lot of bills are, I would say, a blanketed. bills a lot of times. They just cover a whole lot of healthcare or um, and I think a lot of it. I think we need more specific, and I think that can go from the disability or to the Black community. I think a lot of people want a blanket legislation and are afraid to do pinpoint legislation. And I think we just need more specific legislation from our legislative partners for sure.
What partnerships or alliances are more critical to the caucus affecting and advocating for disability rights?
I would say Disability Rights Texas is a huge one. It's a nonpartisan organization, but they kind of a watchful eye on legislative pieces. And Disability Rights Texas, and I would say really just identity caucuses in regards to Black, Latinx, Stonewall, those different, and Women's Caucus, those different caucuses that provide different perspectives. And I think those are the best ones. It's 1 in 4 Texans are disabled, and so I would say they might not be a displaying like a vocal leader in the disabled community, but someone knows someone who is disabled, and so or it was disabled, and so I would say we have to connect with those other identity caucuses and just create allyships. So when we're not in a room, someone is still advocating for those issues for sure.
Yeah. So, what do you think the most significant challenges facing people with disability today?
I would say, back to the affordable housing and like accessibility. I think, everything is, if you're disabled, you can't do all jobs. You can't work long hours, stand up, or, and so work accessibility, affordable housing, I would say, you know, healthcare access. Healthcare um, is so privatized nowadays. All medication is not covered on insurance, and access to healthcare, hospitals so far from our neighborhoods. I think a lot of it is just public transportation and just access to healthcare. And then just obviously financial strain is affecting everyone, but when you're on fixed incomes, like people with, maybe on SSI or Social Security for our elderly or disabled community, you're really going to be more strained because you're only getting checked on the first and the third. So I think it's a big impact, and I think those currently are the biggest ones for sure.
Can you share with us any success stories or personal moments that you had um, a lasting impact on you?
Yes. My nephew is a congenital heart warrior. And even though I had a heart attack at 20, I never really seen myself as what they call it in the heart community as a heart warrior. I think it's just I was like, hey, I'm a blanket to my disability. I'm a kind of it is what it is. It's like it's my thyroid that caused my heart, but my nephew is a congenital heart warrior, and the American Heart Association and the heart community, um, it doesn't really have a lot of black representation, and they've welcomed my family with open arms. My nephew's been on news. My family, we all participate in heart walks. But it really, it opened my eyes. Me growing up with a disability, I really didn't have the community, of other people who, dealing with something similar to me. And I think, for my nephew and my family to have, kind of a community that people who understand what we go through, or, you know, the village, that you need to support a child with special needs or disabilities. I think that was definitely important for me to see. And everyone needs that for sure.
How can a non disabled ally best support the efforts of the Disability Caucus?
I would say the main one would be just to listen and confront your own personal biases. Everyone is depends on where you come from. Black people, we have our own biases unless we're really confronted with it in our personal lives. If you don't see a disability, it's not really there. And a lot of people, if you're not in a wheelchair but it's a lot of invisible disabilities, and when it comes to thyroid conditions or whatever the case may be. And I think it needs to be more education um, and updates into the narrative and revolving around invisible disabilities and the biases that are even in Black and Brown communities, and really just attack those and be willing to learn. I think like what moms always say, come in with open ears and open hearts.
Yeah.
Just be willing to learn and be willing to care and no one knows themselves better than you. So
Okay. What role does the caucus play in educating the broader public about disability issues and rights?
I would say, we hold the main one. Um, I think we need to be on the forefront of all um, disability advocacy, and I think the main one would be, social media. I think social media would be the main one, but really just legislative advocacy. Because people talk to us every day. They tell us what they need, and if if we don't disseminate that information to our legislative partners, we failed. And so I would say just educating our legislative partners and our allies and those other identity caucuses. So when we have issues come up, our brothers and our sisters in the Black Caucus or Stonewall Caucus or whoever it may be, wherever will be able to advocate for us. And I think those are the main ones for sure.
What are some misconceptions about disability advocacy that you wish more people understood?
Ooh, I would say even in the disabled community, I would say invisible diseases invisible disabilities get disrespected a lot, even in the disabled community. Honestly, I've been in rooms. My president in the Young Democrats of America. I'm the vice president of their disability caucus as well, and my vice president Leslie Templeton, she was been told she has a hip dysplasia, and she was like, I've been told I'm not disabled enough, to lead, these caucuses, and being told you're not disabled enough, like what does that even mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot of like every community is infighting and it's misconceptions, but I think invisible disabilities really need a new education. Um,
Mm.
and we need to. It doesn't benefit us to be infighting when we're trying to push a narrative and trying to create change. It doesn't benefit us at all.
I want to go back what you said, the misconception that
Yeah,
they say she wasn't disabled enough.
yeah,
I mean, where that fall in between at? Not disabled, either you are or you're not. There's no gray. And apparently they try and put a gray area in there, which they shouldn't.
yeah,
It boggles the mind for somebody even that coming out of their mouth.
yeah. And like I said, people are so confident. Apparently they've been confident and bold in certain spaces to tell people that. And especially with my own health battles, I really just don't belittle people's, health journeys. You don't know what people going through. And you really can't, belittle it. And or be like, oh, you don't look disabled or you don't look. And it's just like, I don't think that's fair to, for you to access. A lot of things are physical. Mine are hips. Both of my hips are bilateral. I have back. I can't stand up for maybe more than 10 minutes at a time. And
Yeah.
I can't. Whatever the case may be, it's when you're dealing with thyroid conditions or heart issues, you really can't see these things sometimes, and so I think a lot of it you really just have to take into consideration. And it's kind of heartbreaking when your own community tells you um, you might not be qualified because you don't look a certain way, and so that's the big thing for me.
I ran into that. My middle child at the time was disabled, and I parked in a disabled parking place. And I took my son walking. This lady come to me, "What's wrong with you? You don't look disabled." I looked at her. I said, "Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna call the police on you." I'm saying, "Wait, I got a placard sitting in here. I should not have to explain myself to you." And that's what they think, that they could come up and tell you anything. And like, you supposed to look, I need your name. I need, no, you don't need
You
none
don't
of
need it.
that. You don't need none of that at all. And back then, the way, I didn't know that, but as we talking right now nowadays, those are entitled people thinking they can
Yeah.
say whatever they want to say to you. So yeah, I feel you on that one.
Yeah, it's really sad because you know you shouldn't have to defend it. You shouldn't have to be able. You shouldn't have to defend this. No one wants to be disabled. You know what I'm saying? No one wants to be in a space where you're limited physically, even mentally.
Hmm.
And so especially something as you know it's not minor to people in the disabled community, but consider people walking up to you and then confronting you about a parking spot is kind
Right.
of minor in the everyday life, and so I think it's definitely sad, but like people are so emboldened to the fact that just mind your business a lot of times,
Yeah.
and just and I think that's the main one, just but just education, we just have to educate the mass public for sure.
Okay, so how do you see the disability rights movement evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
I would say the main one would be um, just growing, um, collaborating, and building coalitions with the other groups. I would say just because we can grow in numbers, we can grow in numbers, um, we can become more diverse. Overwhelmingly, it's not a lot. It's not too many. It's plenty of Black activists and disabled community, but overwhelmingly, it is a white space. Um, we do need more Black and Brown leaders in this space and advocating for Black and Brown people. And I think that's the main one, just creating more of a inclusive space for all people, but they'll feel welcome, even inclusive in color and in disabilities. Um, because it's not cookie cutter. Everyone's not one thing,
Right.
and we need different perspectives for sure.
What emerging issues do you believe the Disability Caucus will need to address in the near future?
Um, I would say, like I said earlier, rising costs. You know, kind of our structured income and just attacking the Social Security Administration. And updating their system. I think that's the biggest thing. The Social Security Administration is pretty outdated, and I think the information that they're judging people on that takes 6, 7 years to get approved, um, it shouldn't it shouldn't be. I've been disabled since 2 years old, but my mom went out with a stroke when I was four. My mom had a stroke when I was four, and she was battling with Social Security for 6, 7 years, up until I was 6, 7. Trying to get benefits, and we were living on my Social Security check just to be able to live because my mom wasn't able to work. And I think a lot of it is just education. Get real medical people in these rooms when you're making these medical decisions. And I think attacking Social Security and not, I guess attacking may be an aggressive term, but working towards legislative changes
Okay.
for Social Security and update Social Security and make those changes. And that's the main one for sure.
Let's kick back and talk about Social Security.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that because when I was trying to get benefits for my son, right away, I was turned down.
Hmm.
I went back the second time around. They needed more paperwork. The same paperwork that I gave them, they want additional. It hasn't changed. Third time, same thing. Fourth time, they need this paperwork right here. I sent that to you already. So I sent it again. The fifth time, I finally got a chance to go in there and talk to somebody. But I was smart this time around. I brought everything that they asked for the
Everything.
first four times. And sure enough, they asked for a certain piece of paper. I went in there and pulled it out and showed it to them. But I was smart. I dated it when I sent them to them the first time around. And I said, you had this going on a year and a half, and you're asking
Yeah. What?
for it again. So, make a long story short, about the seventh time I went to go see them, in 2 years, they finally approved it. Why?
That's
Why is it's broken? Let's put it that way. The system is broken, and it's been going on for years. When are we gonna get together and do something about it?
and like I said, I think Ayanna Presley is a huge legislative partner in the disabled community, but we need more vocal, leaders, and and more legislative in Congress, Senate, or maybe even in the Supreme Court, someone who is willing to speak up for the disabilities community, and and it's definitely horrible, um, a horrible situation because people are dying. People are dying waiting for benefits. My mom, when she tells me her story about dealing with Social Security, battling for 6, 7 years, they sent a letter talking about, you've been awarded, and my mom was like, this ain't no award. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
after a certain period, it's not an award. And it's more of you deserve it. After you've been dealing with it for 6, 7 years, when um, and it's definitely something that needs to change. And I think if we get the right legislative partners, and we hopefully, and the Harris administration has been on the forefront and has been willing to help and have conversations. And so hopefully we get some legislative pieces in the upcoming session, or even in the near future, that hopefully will specifically impact the disabled community.
One thing I would say, I don't know with everybody, when I finally got mine for my son, they back paid it all the way from the beginning. Now you do get one. I said, now if you could have gave this to me in the beginning,
We wouldn't have had to go through this. We would have.
exactly. you know. So, last question for you: what advice would you give a young activist or emerging leader, in the disability community?
I would say, live your story, and and be an advocate for yourself. I would say, someone's going to be touched by your work, and you're not going to. No one receives their flowers in the beginning, and some might never receive their flowers. But I think you'll find a place that you'll be able to affect change. And what God has for you is what's for you. And don't and just follow your heart, and and pray for those opportunities, and when you get them, take them. But I would say, just and just advocate for yourself, and someone's going to be helped by it for sure.
I want to go back on a couple things.
Yeah.
You said something that really stuck out for me about disability. You
Hmm.
brought up that Greg Abbott is disabled. You would think he'd be more of an advocate for this than anything else instead of trying to close the door. So, what is your thought on that?
I think it's disheartening, honestly. I feel like um, Greg Abbott. I think it's kind of the conservative, uh, I guess, policy in revolving helping the sick, and the sick, and the sick community or healed community is, they don't really have any um, quote unquote socialist policies. You know what I'm saying? I really don't believe helping the sick uh, is a socialist policy. I'm a Democrat and a Christian, so God commanded us to take care of the sick and poor. And so I would say I feel like Greg Abbott fails the disabled community when advocating for certain issues, and he'll have to answer for that. He either in his next position or in general. And I feel like that's the main one. It's not fair to have someone in that position and they don't advocate for it. And I think it's just because he's bought and paid for. So he's not speaking on issues that ain't aren't being told to him. And so, um, but yeah, that's pretty much my my
Okay.
thoughts on that.
All right. Another thing I want to talk to you about, we'll talk about school vouchers a little bit. I want to dig in that a little deeper, in which that I still think that people think there's no disabled kids in school. I really do. They think so. It's kids that are normal, I would say.
Yeah,
They don't look at disabled kids in school, and this school voucher is going to hurt them. Number one,
yeah,
I did find out from another candidate that was on the show that the public school district haven't received any money since 2019. Now, you holding up on money like that, if anybody need that money, it's the disabled side of it because they got to have those ramps. They got to have the right teachers in there. They got to have everything in there. And without that money, how can we help them?
you don't. And I think you obviously you put people in a disadvantage. You put those poor school districts in disadvantages. I think the recent numbers maybe I think it's $30 billion we have in surplus um, in the Texas education system. They're just not giving it. Greg Abbott's holding it up for some odd reason, and they're trying to push this voucher scam, as my colleague Mahela Plessa Representative Tellerico says, it's a scam. You're not supporting. You're not if you're not putting money or provisions in the voucher scam. You're taking money away from public schools, and if you're taking away from money from public schools, you're definitely taking away from the most um, I would say vulnerable communities in the school. I had an IEP growing up, learning disabilities. I have a speech. I still do have a speech impediment, but a speech impediment, and obviously my health issues. And so and I grew up in a poor school district. I grew up in Oklahoma. Um, you know, and sometimes resources. I missed a whole semester of school because I was supposed to be homebound and they couldn't give me the resources. And so I would say, if, you know, students are going to be dealing with issues like that when, you have an underfunded school district or underfunded schools. And, Oklahoma is maybe 50th in education, but Texas is not far behind, and so
Right.
we don't want to go up on that list any further. We really need to support our teachers, um, and our special education teachers specifically, instead of, wanting to have a political battle over vouchers to help private schools. And so that's the main thing on that.
Okay. All right, Mr. Bruce Johnson. We appreciate you coming back on board
Thank you.
again. Is there any information you want to give out to people how to get a hold of you or anything that's going on you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, so I would love for you to guys follow me. My Facebook is Bruce Johnson for Texas. My Instagram is Bruce Johnson for Texas. I love to follow, and I appreciate it. Keep up with me, and I'd love to connect with you for sure.
All right. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you taking the
Thank you,
time out and you take care the rest of the day.
thank you,
All right.
thank
Thank
you.
you. All right, everybody. That was Bruce Johnson right there. Man, a lot of insight on that right there. I'm telling you, it was informative and how the school vouchers is going to start affecting the disabled in school. So, but we'll get there. All right, everybody. We appreciate everybody joining on. This is Ronald Gordon with Texas in Color. We'll see you next time.
Recording stopped.